Alright, so as we're one step closer to ending this whole thing, we were able to get our penultimate episode, and I don't know, because I was talking about last time where it was, either we're going to get a filler episode that just gets us to the finale, or we're going to have two really big episodes, and I suppose technically this is a big episode because some big things happened in it. But the problem is it's not really much of... Because one of the really high points of this season has been, for better or worse, how unpredictable it is. And this particular episode, quite honestly, seems to... Didn't it kind of seem to just sum up what we already knew, more or less, and what we were already kind of expecting? It didn't really throw too many more wrenches in, but it did... It does make you question a lot of things with regards to where characters are going to go, and it does leave a lot of questions as to what exactly is our ending going to be. But we might as well start with the end of the last episode where Emmett walked in and confessed, and said he was going to confess. At the time we weren't sure if it was going to be the whole Varga thing or just what happened to Ray. So it started off just what happened to Ray, and it's this really great scene when we just get the whole from beginning to end Emmett and Ray history as he is confessing to Gloria, and Carrie Coon has a really nice kind of sympathetic presence throughout this. Like, she really kind of, it does seem, it's one of those cases, and you can just kind of tell when you watched it actually happen. This is one of those cases where when you hear Emmett tell the story of what really killed Ray, if I were to hear this, I would think it was a lie if I didn't know any better, I'm sure. But of course, Gloria always has that... She kind of always goes with her gut instincts, which is where her strength is. And I think her gut instinct was always to kind of go with what Emmett was saying, and the fact that things aren't exactly what they're going to be told. I do love the way he, like, really guarded himself by saying if the dude shows up and says he's my lawyer, he's not my lawyer, get him away. But there's still something here where it's kind of like you do feel a sympathy towards Emmett, because it's kind of like we talked about before, where he talks about how for the past 30 years he's been basically killing Ray. He says, like, 30 years I've been killing him. The glass is just what made him fall over, which is a really good line. I just paraphrased it, but... And so he's telling this story, and then he basically has been saying that it's just Ray's entire path in life, that really, you know, downward path, going completely to the contrast of Emmett's upward path, was Emmett's fault, is what Emmett is trying to say. And the thing here is that I don't really know... I mean, it's obviously, like we were saying, Emmett's in a bad place. To the point that he actually believed Ray was taunting him in the last episode from the grave. But still, it kind of leaves in that whole... We go back to the scene from the previous season. I can't even remember which episode it was now, but it's the one when Nikki left her tampon in the drawer. When Nikki broke in and was going to take the stamp, and Emmett and Ray actually had this brotherly moment outside that felt really real and genuine. At the time, we weren't really sure if, like, maybe Emmett was playing him or something, but really, looking back on it, it does seem like it was a very genuine moment. So there was actually a point here where there could have been reconciliation, and it shows that Emmett wasn't just, you know, bringing him down all these years. Emmett really would have liked like, the whole scene that ended up killing Ray was Emmett, you know, begging for reconciliation, more or less. And it's this driving force. The thing I was talking about, the Rock'em Sock'em Robots, with Cy and Nikki. Cy and Nikki fighting each other using the Stasi brothers is really what has made all this blow up into what it is. And that's when I go back now to last episode. We were talking about how Nikki's more or less become a sympathetic character now. But I don't know, when you think about it that way, because for a while there it was kind of like Emmett's a bad guy because he's the one that brought Varga into this in general. So it really all comes back. There's so much blame to throw at so many people in regards to what has happened. And so the question now is because I was questioning still last episode if we can really call Nikki sympathetic, because she is the one, you know, that like told Ray to kill Scoot McNairy. She's the one that kind of has always been kind of pulling the strings. And like I said, this whole string pulling that she's been doing and was fighting with Sai indirectly, more or less, is what's made a lot of this blow up. So the question now is, we get that really good scene between Varga and Nikki where they finally meet, and we feel like we're totally on Nikki's side because she's saying, you know, I want to hurt you, and it's like the first time Varga's really felt almost outsmarted by somebody, or like he actually has like a competition on his hands. And the way, I really like the way she said, I know a boss when I see one, when he's trying to play himself up as working for some other company. So, and just that reaction, that laugh, we know that he's like, there is nobody above Varga. And the thing here is, we have like a fuck yeah thing towards that, but then the question is, well, Nikki may be a lot more sympathetic now than she was before, but does she really deserve to get Varga? Does she really? Because this isn't even about, they even talk about this, it's not even about the fact that she thinks he killed Ray. She's pretty much accepted the fact that Emmett did, and she's saying it's because he tried to kill her. So, and that's pretty much all it took, and now she's gonna blackmail him for money. And we do feel like, as long as Varga is being taken down, we feel good about it, but the question is, you know, he dragged Emmett through all this, but Emmett kind of brought him into it to begin with, so it's really, Emmett doesn't really deserve to be the one to take Varga down. Nikki doesn't really deserve to be the one to take Varga down. The only one that really deserves it is Gloria, because she has worked so hard up to this point and been denied so many times. And then she finally gets this moment where I understand, like, the purpose of it, but still, it was a little underwhelming. When she was sitting at the bar by herself, I did kind of suspect, like, oh god, is Ray Wise going to appear again? But, no, Winnie shows up. And there's a nice little scene there. The hug is really nice. But then there's this moment that kind of feels like it goes against what all we've set up here, and just the way the stories have been getting told, and that is the way Gloria, like, word for word verbatim, says what all we have suspected has been going on. We know what all the symbolism means. The robot from the story in episode 3, she feels like, because it's, you know, hey, I can help, but then she just doesn't, and nobody's around, and she's just alone. And then the whole, she feels so invisible that the censors don't see her because she just feels so non-existent in the world, and it's like, that's, they just spell it right out. And it's less like a reveal and more like a, yeah, we just wanted to totally and completely confirm what you all were thinking, just so you know that that's exactly what the symbolism meant. But it is a nice follow-up when she goes in and the censors do work, because it's basically her jumping off point. Because she's been getting held back the whole season, and she's kind of, you know, was getting really discouraged, and the whole, she thought she had the case, and then Shea Wiggum's dumbass, of course, totally believes the Varga setup of the 2 MOs for the same killer. Because of course he does. And then finally this is the moment when she gets it back, and this is the big, like, the big really boost that she needed to go after what is hopefully going to be her bringing Varga down, but I guess we'll see. Because then there's also the question of because everything's going to collide here, because Gloria's coming after Varga because she basically figured it out when talking to Emmett without him really having to say a whole lot. And then Nikki's on her way to Varga, who she's already found, and now Emmett is back in Varga's possession. So everything's going to come to a head here. Now the question is what's going to happen when it's all here, and who all is going to die. It could be some big, massive, violent, everybody's going to die thing. Except Gloria will not die, but at least. And or it could be totally downplayed. It really, really could. It could be like all dialogue. It could be like all arrests. It could be all that. I was just thinking when Emmett was in his cell, I know I kind of like look down on references like these and stuff like that, but for some reason it was just occurring to me last night. It was like, if any of these major characters is going to end up going to prison, I don't know about you, but I kind of want there to be one final scene when whoever ends up going to prison, their cellmate is Geir Grimsrud. I would, like, I don't know, that's probably cheesy, but that's just one thing I would be like, that would kind of be like one last payoff for this season, should Hawley decide to end it here. But anyway, what's going to happen when all these characters collide? Like, particularly like Nikki and Emmett. Like, is there going to be a kind of thing here where he explains to her that he killed Ray by accident, and she just accepts it, and they go their separate ways? Is she going to kill him? Could he possibly bring himself to kill her? I don't know. But these are interesting questions. I don't know. I don't know. This episode really had some good moments, but it also set me up to feel like the finale could be a letdown. I'm not like gonna stick to that and say, oh, it probably will be, but I feel like it really could be. But we'll just hold back and we'll just let it play out and see what happens. But I don't know. But there's also another thing was, I had initially had the idea in my head that Fargo was the type of character that could probably get away, where he would basically, even if he doesn't necessarily come out on top, he could still somehow get away from this without having consequences. I think it's been built up enough that Fargo will most likely go down. I don't think there's any doubt about that now, because he's always kind of been the main villain of the series, but there was still kind of that joyous way in how evil he was for the start, and now it's just progressed into he's just flat out evil. And I know like flat out evil can win in a universe like this, like Anton Chigurh getting away, for instance, but the thing here is this season has been kind of off the wall and kind of goes into different territories and plays with different things, but I still think it's been relatively conventional enough to where pretty much bad things will happen to the bad and good things will ultimately happen to the good, more or less. It's the question of these middle ground characters like Emmett and Nikki that are kind of like playing both sides, and they obviously they both kind of want to be on this good side, though. Even though Nikki, I don't know, Nikki also seems to kind of be taking advantage of Ray's death in the event that she was always really good at planning this stuff, and Ray was always really good at kind of bumbling through it and messing it up in some way. So now that she has somebody more like Mr. Wrench, she's a lot more prone to getting away with the stuff that she plans. So she'll probably, because I had initially thought the meeting with Ray Wise meant that she was going to kind of, maybe she'll punish the wicked and then say goodbye to her life of crime, but she seems to almost get too much joy out of it, and then Nikki ultimately may not change after all. So if that puts her on the bad side, then it's hard to tell. She'll probably just end up in prison or something. So then there's this whole cover-up thing that Varga's doing finally after like 3 episodes of saying we were gonna cover Emmett's ass. The question I had was Varga seems to be aware of like everything, but the question mainly was this always going to be the cover-up, or did they start doing the cover-up because Emmett was confessing and they knew that, because they're happening at the same time? I initially thought the opening scene was a flashback and we were learning that Mimo actually killed Gloria's stepfather, because like the refrigerator and everything was even there, but then the name reveal showed that although they're just basically trying to make it look like it was all one person. But I thought that was almost a little sloppily done, mainly with that random guy that took the fall. That almost seemed a little too easy to get away with. There's like they just happen to have. I know tends to be the thing in crime where you always have this guy that you can just throw in as a patsy, but it's like it's just always seemed kind of like lazy constructing to me. But I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I really am not quite sure. There's so many ways the finale can go, which is a good way to go into a finale. Jesus Christ. a good way to go into a finale, but I don't know if it's gonna ultimately be very, like, extremely rewarding, but we will see, because it's like, the lines are so blurred about what characters we're supposed to be with here. Obviously, we mainly want to stay on Gloria's side, but, you know, we're kind of half with Nikki, half, I don't know if she's really earned this. And Emma is just kind of like, Emma's just like a dead zone now. Like, he just doesn't, like, he could, for all we know, he could be being taken off to his death at this very minute as he was being driven away. But, yeah, he's just like right in the middle of it now, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens to everybody, but I almost feel like it might be too predictable in a season that is proven to be a bit unpredictable, so we'll see what happens. And of course we did have that final thing with Hamish Linklater coming back, which clearly is pointing us in the direction that something big is going to happen, so I guess we will see. Hopefully Hamish Linklater doesn't get himself killed. That would suck. So yes, that's what we've got to look forward to. There's really not much we can do here. This episode really didn't give us much other than kind of that lead-in and to kind of tell us what we already knew. So I guess we'll see how it plays out, and we can only hope for the best. So that's what we have. So yes, you're getting all this stuff, like tomorrow will be the It Comes at Night review, and then the Adam West tribute versus, and then we'll go into next week. So all this fun stuff to look forward to, and then we'll have, before anything else happens, before any movie reviews or versus take place next week, we get our big finale, so we'll see what happens. So that's it.